The water sportsmen beat the champions, rugby union. The athletes almost whitewashed the footballers. And that has brought us back for the third week running to this beautiful and historic city of Bath. We're here, of course, for the final of the Super Team Championship. And both teams now have more than just a fair idea of what they're capable of in the 8 events that make up the two-day competition. Tactics and team planning have already played quite a big part in the build-up.
An Olympian who's been many times British and Irish canoe champion, runner-up in last year's World Superstars, Declan Burns. Another successful superstar, indeed past British champion, an Olympic silver medalist from rowing, Tim Crooks. And now a national champion from the sport of windsurfing, Peter Cordwell. And a yachtsman who has been British, European and world champion and is the reigning European champion, Chris Law. From the world of surfing, an international with a world record to his credit, Stuart Matthews. And Britain's most successful diver ever, 2 European and 4 Commonwealth golds, plus an Olympic bronze, Brian Phelps. A clubmate of Phil Howden, also in Great Britain's water polo team, Stefan Radvansky. And the man who claimed a world record and Olympic gold in the 200 metres breaststroke at the Montreal Olympics, David Wilkie. Their coach is Oxford University rowing coach, himself a former lightweight world medalist, Dan Topolsky. And the brilliant team of athletes who easily won their way to the final. First, an international sprinter at 100 metres, 200 metres and 400 metres, Birmingham's Ainsley Bennett. And back from his American university in Dallas, the indoor world record holder at triple jump, Keith Connor. A past Masters champion at Superstars, following a brilliant athletic career, Commonwealth, European and Olympic champion, Lynn Davis. An international field event athlete, 3 times United Kingdom champion at hammer throwing, Paul Dickinson. Our brilliant pole vaulter, who was a member of the 1979 victorious athletes team, Brian Hooper. An Olympic silver medalist and European champion at 400 metres, David Jenkins. Our giant international shot and discus thrower, fast being attracted to American football, Richard Slaney. The inimitable Commonwealth and Olympic decathlon champion, Daley Thompson. Their coach, the former Olympic bronze medalist at 5,000 metres and world record holder for the mile, still a county squash player, Derek Ibbotson.
So it's Ibbotson and his athletes versus Topolsky and his water sports men, with the Ferguson Trophy going to the 1982 Super Team champions. River Avon, just down from Pulteney Weir, awaiting the canoe races. But here, just across to our right, is the Sports and Leisure Centre, where we'll be spending the whole of the first day. 4 events. The first is swimming, and the former world superstar champion, Brian Budd from Canada, is in the poolside commentary box with Ron Pickering.
Take your mark. Stuart Matthews on the left, the surfer for the water sport. On the right, Paul Dickinson. They get away, and this could be quite close. This first link, 33 1/3 meters, front crawl.
Listen, you got the big man, big Paul Dickinson. He's been here before. He knows what he's going to do. And Stuart Matthews, a relative newcomer to this event, but he's holding his own.
Daley Thompson next off for the athletes. Peter Cordwell for the water sports. Marvellous dive out from Daley Thompson. And he's got about 2 meters clear at the moment from Peter Cordwell, the windsurfer. But Peter Cordwell looks to be closing.
He spends a little bit of time in the water, and he's gaining a little bit of ground on Daley Thompson. Daley knows what he's going to do. With meters to go, he's held his own.
Brian Hooper next to swim for the athletes. Tim Crooks from rowing. There's still 1.5 meters as Daley Thompson reaches it. Away goes the third leg. Still 1 length breaststroke. Brian Hooper being chased by Tim Crooks, and this is very close. In fact, Tim Crooks has gone ahead, and this is quite critical.
Yes, you can see it right now. It's all going to come down to the final 2 lengths of freestyle, and it's still anybody's race, although Tim Crooks has taken a slight lead with only meters to go.
And this looks tough for the athletes, because on final leg it's Brian Phelps over 2 lengths versus David Jenkins. And the experience of the diver should surely be too much for David Jenkins. Brian Phelps, marvellous diver, and he's got now about 7 meters clear, and this looks as though it's going to be a good win for the swimmers. 7 sports represented. Brian Phelps has a quick look, gets on his way, and still David Jenkins still to reach. So it's a long, long way to make up.
It's a very difficult time. This last little bit, it doesn't look long when you're sitting here, but that last little bit, you can see the arms are tightening a little bit. It looks like it's all over. Brian Phelps bringing in a great result for the swim team early on. Sorry, for the swimming event for the water sports men.
Oh, it's a marvellous victory. Very good one indeed. David Jenkins just swimming in now, knowing that the points are lost on this one. First blood to the water sports.
3 points for the winners here. And remember, there are 8 events in all in this Super Team final. Well, from the pool, we move to the shooting area. For what we've already seen in past weeks is a very difficult event, running bore. Now, it's a 10-meter range, and the big athlete Richard Slaney was first to go. In the semi-final against the footballers, he'd been their best marksman with 1 bull in his total of 26. This was Slaney's first shot of the final. The target is marked 10, 8, 6, 4 and 2, and that was a 6. Declan Burns, the canoeist, was Slaney's opponent in the first of the 3 shooting matches. Against the rugby players in his semi-final, Burns had put only 2 on the target. And he could hardly believe that here. A bull with his first attempt. Well, the smile came back on Slaney's face when Burns missed completely with his next 2. And by then, the big athlete had followed up his opening 6 with an 8 and another 6 to give him 20 and 2 shots left.
Steady as she goes.
Another 8. And Burns now in what he would call desperate trouble. Well, that was Burns's last, a 6, to give him a total of 22. 3 shots on and 2 off. And Slaney giving the athletes their first point with some very respectable shooting. It was Lynn Davis for athletics, brought in to replace David Jenkins. Davis with his first shot. And a good one, an 8. Davis's opponent was the yachtsman, Chris Law. And as Law came to his third shot, Davis wasn't too worried. Law had put just a 4 and a 2 on the target so far. And that was the third bull of the competition. Law, of course, a new water sports marksman. And it gave Davis more to think about. And when you're worried, well, everything hurts. In the next 3 shots, only 1 hit the target. And Ibbetson's team change, Davis for Jenkins, didn't look to be working out. This was Davis's last shot. Well on target, but only a 4. And Chris Law, the European fin-class yachting champion, had no trouble in becoming the only water sports man to beat an athlete in the shooting. And that was it. Law, total of 26, the second best of the event. Davis 16, the lowest score. And Chris Law had stopped a shooting whitewash.
Lynn Davis losing a chance to draw level, but just 2 points in it.
The athletes leading 2-1. Brian Phelps in possession to Chris Law, robbed by Keith Connor. Thompson has Thompson away again. Caldwell trying to block. Thompson gets round him, rolls around the ring. Thompson. Substitution on the water sports. Stuart Matthews, I think, will be coming on. Yes, Stuart Matthews, number 5, coming on. And Chris Law, well, he hasn't been on too long. Number 4 going straight back off again. Matthews, good player. Very quick. Whip ball there trying to find Phelps. Phelps finds, couldn't get a shot into Radwanski. Hooper down to Thompson. They're trying Thompson all the time at the front now. He's pushed Matthews off. And Stuart Matthews was not at all happy. Thompson really whacked him off court. Oh, and the bench aren't happy either. Here's Matthews. Finds Caldwell. Finds Radwanski, and Radwanski knocked out by Paul Dickinson.
And the one thing Radwanski did very, very well, as we look at number 6, David Jenkins, a little excited, standing up, a little bit of encouragement, doesn't know what to do with himself. Oh, here we are. Stuart Matthews with a little bit of offensive tactics there. They know they're behind, and he's making everybody play.
Radwanski. 2 to go. It's 2-all on the score. It's 3-2. The athletes are calling for a substitution. And Thompson intercepts well, leaps high. At basket. Oh, he was so unlucky. Brilliant interception, and again it's Declan Burns who comes away, and Thompson has a little crack at him. And substitution.
And as water sports substitute Tim Crooks for Brian Phelps, we are sending on Richard Slaney.
So they restart. Brian Hooper's off. Big Richard Slaney is on. There's Slaney underneath the basket guarding. Slaney. Long ball again down to Thompson. He's clear. He's clear.
And he traveled there. What happened is he got in position and he took that extra little skip, and you're not allowed to do that. Once you've got planted, you must either dribble or shoot. And he tried to sneak an extra foot in there to be sure, and it didn't work out for him at all.
Real chance wasted there by Thompson. He really had a great chance. Matthews. Radwanski. Unlucky. Got underneath the ring of the basket. Again, Thompson is clear at the front. Not now. Too late. Still 3-2, the water sports leads. Here's Connor. Thompson leaping so high. Ainsley Bennett is on. Slaney is back, the big man. Slaney tries the long one off the backboard. Thompson underneath.
Whistle or not, the basket will count. He was in the act of shooting. Some confusion. They don't seem to understand it, but he'll still get one more shot for a single point because he was in the act of shooting.
So the athletes leading 4-3 there, and the water sportsmen not too happy about that last decision, but it stands. Thomas blowing his trumpet, which signals substitution.
And down here on the athletes' bench, well, David Jenkins, although sidelined, living every moment of the game as the athletes hang on to their 1-point lead.
And with only a limited amount of time left, I must say, compared to the semi-final, the athletes have played as a team, not as a group of individuals, and that's what's kept them in this game up till now.
I think they've learned a lesson with that first semi-final. So Caldwell holds. Finds Matthews. Matthews back. Chris Law is back on again. Law, not a good ball to Matthews, but he finds Chris Law, and oh, Law shot too quickly at that. There was no skill behind that shot. That was desperation. Dickinson for the athletes, leading 4-3 to Thompson. Dickinson. He's got Slaney to his right. Finds Keith Connor, who jumps well.
Well done, Keith Connor!
They must have worked on that because Keith Connor ran in the middle and he jumped, and the ball was already in the air as he jumped. He must have read that. They played a little bit together this week from the semi-final to the final.
But it's free throws for Connor. Yes! 5-3 to the athletes. Last one. Ibbotson working out his tactics. Little time left. 5-3, a chance to make it 6-3. No, it stays at 5-3. And Paul Dickinson rolled over again there. Just over half a minute to go. Oh, and it was nearly by Dickinson. And again, whistle there.
And you had to look at David Jenkins there. He's jumping up and down there in the lead. He's well pleased with this victory just within their grasp.
Looks like the athletes have got it. It's 5-3 at the moment. Seconds left to go. They're all looking up at the clock, the big clock here in the sports, and all the players turning around looking as he shoots that 6-3. Must be all over. One to shoot. 6-3 leads. The countdown's going from about 8. And it looks like the athletes have restored it all as the whistle goes. And there's the hooter, and they've done it. Prestige restored in the athletes' camp. The rest of the team coming on. It was a vital victory for them. They really wanted that one, and they did it well. They had a fright in the first half. They then got themselves together, and by the score of 6 points to 3, the athletes have beaten the water sports team in the big team basketball game. And for the first time in this Super Team final, the athletes lead.
Well, it's an absolutely glorious day for day 2. The score stands at the moment 7-6 to the athletes. The next event is the cycling.
On your marks!
Lynn in the red, up in the saddle, getting away fast. I think he feels a little bit hurt and slighted that Tim Crooks thought this would be certain points for him. But look at this for a lead, and he's still up, out of the saddle. Settled down now. Tim Crooks trying to slipstream, but Davis has got an impressive lead as they come to the hill, and there's no slowing. Davis getting away from him, and that's a very big gap indeed, and this is a very fast ride. First points to the athletes.
On your marks!
Well, the ribbing goes on, but now the competition matters, and this man, Stuart Matthews, is a very talented all-rounder, former international sprinter as well as international surfer. But he's against Daley Thompson, who hates to be beaten at anything and certainly doesn't want to be beaten on a bike, and gets the early lead and climbs the hill, looks over his shoulder and holds on to that lead. Matthews pulling wide, trying to get alongside, but Thompson senses him there and goes for the line. 2 wins to the athletes. A great race and a fast time, 25-6 to 25-8. Keith Connor and Chris Law still to come.
On your marks!
The explosive power which makes him a world record holder in the triple jump is just the sort of force you need on the pedals. And he leans over and starts to get away, although Chris Law is holding him well. They're looking for a hat trick of wins, the athletes, and Connor is starting to work. Pumping away, Law has to pull in behind him, but Connor is clear. And he's going away as they go up the hill, and this is what they were looking for, 3 wins in a row. 3 more points to the athletes, and each winning time there faster than Mike Hazelwood's old course record.
So the athletes have opened up a 4-point gap, a useful lead, 10 points to 6. Well, the next event, as you can see, should favour the water sports men because we're on their territory. Out on the water, we're on the Avon, just down from Pulteney Weir. The sunshine is glorious, and we're here, of course, for the canoe races. 3 races, that's single kayak, double kayak, and then the Canadian fours. And remember, in their semi-finals, neither of these 2 teams were beaten. So this time, something has got to go. We hope it's not the competitors, but if it is, well, we're ready for them.
And for the competitors, life jackets, of course, will be compulsory. And while everyone else enjoys the sunshine, the first 2 are out on the water for race 1. Daley Thompson, who did win his canoe race in the semi-finals against the footballers, but in these surroundings against the water sports men, well, the athletes are for once admitting they'll be lucky to get a point. Brian Phelps, the Olympic, European and Commonwealth medal-winning diver, is the first of the water sports men. And believe it or not, one time in his career, Brian Phelps couldn't even swim. But the course here, 120 metres, a straight run. Phelps versus Thompson.
Are you ready? On your marks.
Thompson nearest us. Remember the overall score in this final at the moment, the athletes 10, the water sports 6, and Brian Phelps looking like the other canoeist will be to bring it right back in contention again. Thompson just keeping with him, Phelps just slightly up at the moment, but look at Thompson's stroke. And Jenkins is looking as well as Thompson begins to surge ahead. Now Phelps made a little mistake there, he got off rhythm a bit, and Thompson, determined as he was in the cycling, is powering through the water, and Daley Thompson is up. Now this is a surprise without any doubt at all. He's over a length up and Phelps has lost it. Phelps is all over the place, and there is Thompson powering towards the line, and the athletes have stolen a point off the water sportsmen in the canoeing, and Thompson is absolutely delighted. That's a turnout.
What do you think of that bit?
Right. I mean, there was all sorts of little bits of nitty-gritty before we started, but I knew that man was going to be good. Pair of shoulders like that.
Well, you give him a good start, Daley.
Ah, we can't believe it. We wasn't expecting to take anything off him in the water. Really? I think this is our proudest moment.
Well, race 2 is double kayaks. Ron Pickering is at the start with Lynn Davis and Brian Hooper for the athletes.
And what about this teamwork? You and Lynn been practicing, working together?
Months, Ron, months. Secret training.
But it wasn't going badly this morning, was it, Lynn?
It went very well, Ron. It's great to be behind somebody like Brian because I'm not a great canoeist, but if we can get out fast and get a good start, I think we're in there with a chance of winning because they're a good side. So it should be a good race.
Okay, to nick 2 off the water sports in canoeing would really be a turn-up, wouldn't it?
Great, yeah.
Terrific.
Wish you luck.
Thanks, Ron.
Well, they might need it because they're up against Tim Crooks and Stuart Matthews, rower and surfer. Same distance for the double kayaks, 120 metres, straight run. Just coming to the line, waiting to be announced by the Superteams announcer, David Lodge.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the far side of the water sports team, Tim Crooks and Stuart Matthews. On the near side for the athletes, Brian Hooper and Lynn Davis.
Are you ready? On your marks.
And away they go, and the overall score now in the battle for the Ferguson Trophy, athletes 11, water sports 6. Water sports need this race and the big 4-man event to come, and Crooks and Matthews up at the moment. Canoeing well, long economical stroke, the boat going straight through the water, and that's the difference because the athletes are wavering slightly from side to side and losing out because of it. In fact, they're going slightly offline as well. Going over towards the right-hand side, and if they hit that wall, they'll be disqualified. The water sportsmen now well up, and the athletes are in trouble. They've hit the wall, they're out, and the water sportsmen come down towards the line, and I've got the athletes coming down here towards me in the safety boat.
What went wrong?
Wrong? We made the bank, didn't we?
Crooks and Matthews restoring prestige to the water sports team after that surprise defeat of Brian Phelps by Daley Thompson in the singles. But now it's double the distance. From the weir and back again, the turn at the far end, the four-man event.
I have four fellows here with me who are not quite up to par. So,
It's all down to you then.
well, you know, the captain always has to pull the team through.
Go on, Captain, get in there.
But I'm not going home with a boat.
If you see us capsize, it's tactical, okay? So don't get worried.
You want a rerun?
Yeah.
Well, Captain Connor to lead his men against this four from Watersports: Wilkie, Redvansky, Law and Caldwell. And both crews in this final canoeing event are unbeaten in super team races.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the far side for the water sports, David Wilkie, Stefan Redvansky, Chris Law, and Peter Caldwell. On the near side for the athletes, Keith Connor, David Jenkins, Ainsley Bennett, and Paul Dickinson.
Same crew that beat the footballers in last week's semi-final when the soccer men capsized.
On your marks!
Water sports, they've got Stefan Redvansky replacing fellow water polo player Phil Howden at number 2 in the crew that beat the rugby players. Incidentally, the record shows only 5 seconds between water sports and athletics for this total distance of 260 meters with the vital turn at the halfway stage. Peter Caldwell doing the steering for the water sports. And Paul Dickinson doing the same really for the athletes, trying to keep it straight. And they've got to get a good line coming into this turn. Absolutely vital to negotiate the turn properly, not just to get a good run up the finishing leg, but also to stay upright. Water sports slightly up at the moment, but nothing in it at all as they come to the turn. Water sports going wide, using every inch of water. The athletes coming at it rather quickly. Water sports turning now. Just keeping that canoe going, and they've got a better turn. It's a more fluent turn, and the athletes stop there for a second, and they're having trouble keeping straight. They're going towards the wall, which brought disaster to the double kayak of Davis and Brian Hooper. And look at the way that water sports have shot ahead. They took that turn superbly, and the athletes now all over the place. Had to get back online, and there's no way they'll get this back unless the water sportsmen capsize, and that is unlikely. They're going to win this four-man event. Lost the first race, won the second. Paul Dickinson looking a bit disgusted with the athletes now, and they know it's all gone. In fact, they've stopped completely. Brian Hooper, hands on hips, knows it's all gone, and the water sportsmen coming into victory in the four-man event, and it'll be a very good time. Although Peter Caldwell holds up the paddle in triumph, they've done well. 1 minute 49.1, and that's a new Super Teams four-man canoe record here at Bath. So it's 2 points out of 3 for water sports in the canoeing, where they and their opponents, I think, expected a clean sweep.
And as the athletes limp in, there are still 2 events to go. 6 points left to win as we move over to the rugby ground for the obstacle course, in which 4 men take part from each team. Next then, the big wall, the parallel bars, the horse and box, the beam and hurdles, and the problem for the athletes surely is who to leave out of the team. On paper, they must be clear favourites. The only team to have broken 3 minutes for the event.
Competing for the water sports team, Declan Burns.
The only water sports man to keep his place in this event.
Tim Crooks.
The rower, and yes, eyeing up that 12-foot wall.
Stefan Redvansky.
The water polo player who did so well in the basketball.
Brian Phelps.
And the wall must look massive to him.
Competing for the athletics team, Daley Thompson.
Well, remember his wall clearance at the rope? I can tell you he does.
Lynn Davis.
And he's trying to forget the penalties on the long jump last time.
Keith Connor.
Literally flew all the obstacles when the athletes beat the footballers.
Brian Hooper.
And Hooper, of course, knows he'll be doing all this on his own in a few weeks' time in individual superstars.
On your marks.
Thompson versus Burns, and Thompson has done it again. Foot on the wall, straight over the top, and look at the lead he's got. Oh, a fault on the parallel bars. He did this last time. He went too quickly last time. This time he's fallen off, but he's still in the lead. Long jump, it's a difficult one, and I think Burns has got penalties. The flag half went up. Daley Thompson running along that beam, making it look a mile wide rather than 4 inches. What an athlete he is. Made a mistake on the parallel bars, but has got a tremendous lead as he runs back, and he'll hand over to Lynn Davis. Burns has recovered well. In fact, he got penalties on the high jump. The long jump was clear, penalties on the high jump. But what a start, Ron Pickering, for your athletes.
Indeed, he looked almost like Ed Moses, didn't he? Lynn a little more tentative, knowing that he's got a good lead, will go for safety. Onto the parallel bars, dreading the long jump in case he should have another embarrassment. Few tentative steps, hops it clear this time, no problem. Box, horse, now the beam. That's the only area in which the athletes, I think, could come into tricky, dangerous problems. Pecking his way over the hurdles, and remember, the athletes have still got Connor and Hooper to come, and they already have a massive lead.
Meanwhile, the water sports plough on with Tim Crooks. And in fact, he's had penalties on the long jump. Crooks has had a 5-second penalty on the long jump. So that's 5 for Burns on the high jump, 5 for Crooks on the long jump. Here goes Keith Connor. I think he was tempted to have a go at clearing that wall without the rope.
It was almost a challenge from Daley Thompson. They'll go back and practice this. Keith Connor, with steel springs in his legs, should be able to reach it, but it is a confidence test. Look at that hop as he goes over. And this is Stefan Radvansky's problem, really, to close a massive gap. It's almost all over as he climbs the wall, and Keith Connor pops over the high jump and does exactly the same to the hurdles. They're obstacles which almost don't exist.
Look at his arms. Look at that guy move. Come on.
Yes, no one could fail to appreciate the sight of Keith Connor, only at a canter, because he hands over to Brian Hooper, and the athletes really have got, I would think, an unbeatable lead, unless they get complete disaster. Hooper's had problems on a beam before. Radvansky comes through. He's had penalties on the long jump as well. So there's 15 seconds of penalties counting against the water sportsmen. Hooper's okay. In fact, they had to stop Hooper trying to clear those 2 gymnasium obstacles in one leap. They said he had to step on the ground in between. Absolutely no problem. And your athletes, Ron Pickering, have certainly shown here.
Absolutely, and this is Brian Hooper's lap of victory. The rest can struggle. They've made a gallant attempt, but the athletes, what a squad they had out. Thompson, Davis, Connor and Hooper would challenge anyone in the world, any quartet in the world over this obstacle course. It was really made for athletes, and they're reveling in it now.
So Phelps continues, but the water sportsmen well beaten by the victorious athletes. A very impressive performance.
Great team performance. It's a great team performance.
That's enough, Derek.
Well, time is irrelevant.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, well, thanks, Derek.
That's another. Go on. That's the team. Well done, the athletes. Terrific. Thanks.
So the athletes cock a hoop. They cannot be beaten. It's been a great team effort, and they want to challenge now any other team in the world. What's more, they still want every point that's left.
So we come to the big strength event, but an event where technique can overcome just sheer strength and weight. It is the tug of war, 3 separate pulls, 1 point per pull. Now, the water sportsmen, once again, have managed to get all 8 men on the rope under the weight limit of 1,500 pounds. And you remember what they did to the rugby players in the semi-final. The athletes, like the rugby players, have had to drop 1 man. That's because they've got big Richard Slaney, all 21.5 stone as anchor man, so they're over the limit with all 8, so they've had to drop the lightest man, that's Ainsley Bennett. So, 7 athletes versus 8 water sportsmen.
Are you now ready, athletics? Pick up the rope. Take the strain. Give a little bit, steady, pull!
So the first of 3 pulls, 8 men on this side versus 7 on the other. The athletes determined to pull the water sportsmen off the pitch and take their unbeaten record. And neither of these two teams have ever lost a pull in Super Teams tug-of-war. Big Richard Slaney on the left there, the anchor man. The athletes are beginning to move the water sportsmen. In the two semi-finals, the pools were indoor. And the water sportsmen desperately trying to hold on. And there's Big Slaney who does it on his own almost again. First pull to the athletes. And Jenkins is still leaping high in the sky. He loves every second and every point. And the water sportsmen a bit dejected. Connor. 2 pulls to go. They won't give anything, I can tell you.
Total commitment from the athletes. And Richard Slaney, 21.5 stone maybe, but he's key in this operation as an anchor man that knows what he's doing. Head back and getting his legs into the pull.
Got a good grip. My legs hyperextended.
Are you ready, water sports? Are you ready, athletics? Pick up the rope. Take the strain. Give athletics. Steady, pull!
And the athletes determined not to give an inch. Total commitment has been all the way through this competition. Heads back. David Wilkie's given his all throughout the crystal orb, fighting his way. But just that slight edge of superior strength. The legs working for the athletes. Lynn Davis there gritting his teeth. Locked in the middle. Not an inch at the moment. Water sports remembering their great victory. Dan Topolsky calling on them for every inch of effort, but suddenly it's a runaway, and the athletes have got 2 pulls in succession.
Benny! Benny, get down the ground! That's it. Come on. That's it. Come on. Just because you've led for 2 laps, you don't give the 3rd one away.
We're tired of beating them.
Just one more.
The water sportsmen finding the athletes a very different proposition to the rugby men they pulled all over the place. And in fact, Coach Ibbotson has set the athletes a new target. Do this one in less than 30 seconds. 32.69, 35.61. He not only wants another victory, but now a target.
Pick up the rope. Take the strain. Give water sports. Give the rope, water sports. Give it. And some more. And some more. Steady, pull.
And don't forget, it's 7 athletes versus 8 water sportsmen, and the athletes are lighter. Ainsley Bennett on the sidelines has to watch to see if his athletes can do it. Nobody has ever pulled the athletes in Super Teams. The water sportsmen's record is gone completely. They're after the 30-second mark. And they're going to get it. That's it. And it's just over 28 seconds on the clock. They've done it all. The athletes keep their 100% tug-of-war record. 6 pulls in semi-final and final. 6 wins, and they loved it.
Athletes are used to competing by themselves in the exposure, and team sports feel a little bit uncomfortable when they are by themselves. And I think this has come out in these sort of events where they are. Yeah, true. Yeah,
Well said, Lynn. Well said.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Indeed. Keep the Eldridge to the lip there. The other point is we're used to getting ready for an event and then performing with the adrenaline psyched up.
What about
frankly, they're used to events which require a little bit more endurance than the explosive event.
I think a word should be said about Ainsley, who's lost his voice shouting.
Yes, well done, Ainsley.
He's doing really good.
A few words, Ainsley. Talk to us, Ainsley. Go on.
Next week.
Well, next week it's back to individual superstars, but this week the athletes have moulded themselves into a tremendous team, maintaining their unbeaten record in team superstars with a handsome win in great team spirit.
And so by the impressive score of 17 points to 8, a score which perhaps doesn't reflect how close it all was to the final stages, the new champions, the new super team, led on by their coach Derek Ibbotson, the athletes. And to present the trophy, the sales director of Ferguson, Mr. Jim Ross. So the trophy is accepted by Lynn Davis, this great Olympic long jumper, now Britain's international athletics team manager. In their semi-final and final, the athletes dropped only 11 points out of 50, and the sport have never lost a super team competition.
Very well done. Fine. Can you hold one of those?
Yes,
I'll shake hands with you, okay?
Keith Connor rivaling Daley Thompson for the limelight. Ainsley Bennett, the smallest of the 8, and Richard Slaney, by a long way, the biggest. But until the latter part of the second day, their opposition gave them the hardest fight yet, and we'll talk forever about their semi-final defeat of rugby union. The 8 men from 7 different sports, coached by Dan Topolsky, the water sports team. So that is Superteams for 1982. And now we move on to the Superstars, the individual championships. Over the coming weeks, we'll be seeing 16 current world, European and national sporting champions in 2 heats and a final. We'll probably be seeing some more champagne as well. We'll be seeing the best of Britain's girls. And we'll be going to Hong Kong for the international and later to Florida for the world event. But it all begins next week with perhaps the most famous names of all. Next week, the past masters in the first of the Superstars.